Most people think gold automatically saves them during hyperinflation. That assumption has destroyed more wealth than people ever realize. The history books are full of cautionary tales nobody talks about. You are about to hear the truth that gold dealers never tell you. Hyperinflation is not just regular inflation moving a little faster than normal. It is a complete and total collapse of trust in currency. Prices can double within hours, not months or years. People burn paper money because it is cheaper than firewood. In this environment, your instinct screams one thing very loudly: buy gold, hold gold, protect yourself with gold forever. This sounds completely logical, and almost everyone reaches this exact conclusion. But logic built on a wrong assumption will always fail you. Here is the mistake that educated, intelligent, prepared people make repeatedly. They buy gold at exactly the wrong moment in the cycle. They wait until hyperinflation is already visibly exploding around them. By that point, the gold price has already been bid up insanely. Think about Weimar Germany in the early 1920s very carefully. People who bought gold after hyperinflation became obvious paid enormous premiums. The smart money had already accumulated gold years before the crisis fully arrived. Late buyers were essentially trading one overpriced asset for another. The same pattern repeated itself in Zimbabwe just a few decades ago. Gold premiums over spot price reached absolutely staggering levels during the peak crisis. Ordinary citizens could not acquire gold at anything resembling a fair price. The protection gold offered was already priced out for most regular people. Venezuela followed this exact same tragic script more recently than you think. When the bolivar collapsed completely, gold prices in local terms were astronomical. The people who needed protection most could afford it the very least. Timing, not gold ownership, was the actual deciding factor in survival. Now here's the second part of the mistake that almost nobody discusses openly. Even people who owned gold before hyperinflation made critical errors after. They held physical gold but had no plan for actually converting it to useful things. Gold sitting in a safe does not feed your family next Tuesday. During hyperinflation, the economy does not simply pause while you figure things out. Commerce happens fast, chaotically, and through networks built on existing relationships and trust. Walking up to strangers offering gold coins invites robbery, fraud, and serious danger. Your gold is only as useful as your ability to safely exchange it. People also massively underestimate the liquidity problem with physical gold ownership. A single gold coin in 1920s Germany could be worth more than a house. Making change for a 1-ounce gold coin becomes practically impossible very quickly. You need smaller denominations and a much more flexible strategy than most people plan for. Silver actually outperformed gold for everyday transactions in most historical hyperinflations. Silver coins could be used for smaller purchases without the impossible change problem. Barter-sized silver units match the actual economic reality of daily survival much better. Gold was too valuable for bread, silver bought what you needed to live. Here is the third enormous mistake that gold enthusiasts never want to hear. Governments historically have confiscated gold during major economic crises without hesitation. The United States did exactly this in 1933 under Executive Order 6102. Citizens were required to hand over gold coins at government set below market prices. Many hyperinflationary governments have followed similar confiscation playbooks throughout history. They declare gold hoarding to be illegal, unpatriotic, or a threat to national stability. Holding undeclared gold suddenly becomes a criminal act with severe consequences attached. Your protection asset transforms overnight into a serious legal liability and danger. This does not mean you should never own gold under any circumstances whatsoever. It means your strategy must account for confiscation risk very explicitly and specifically. Diversification across asset types becomes more important than gold concentration alone. Having all your eggs in one golden basket is still a deeply flawed strategy. There is also a fourth mistake that almost nobody in the gold community acknowledges. Gold protects purchasing power over long periods, but not necessarily short ones. If you need to sell gold during the absolute worst panic moment, prices fluctuate wildly. Forced sellers almost never get the price that buy and hold charts promise anyone. Real hyperinflation survivors who thrived shared several characteristics beyond just owning gold. They held land producing food or other genuinely consumable resources people needed daily. They had skills that others were desperate to trade valuable goods for. They maintained social networks that created economic opportunities gold alone could not buy. A farmer with grain during Weimar hyperinflation ate and prospered consistently. A factory worker with gold but no food connections still faced hunger and despair. The tangible ability to produce real things mattered more than stored monetary value. Gold is a store of value, but value storage requires a functional exchange environment. The deepest and most uncomfortable truth about gold in hyperinflation is this. It works best for people who are already wealthy before the crisis ever begins. People with enough gold to trade up for land, businesses, and productive assets won. They were not protecting wealth, they were using chaos to actively accumulate more wealth. For the middle class and below, gold is a partial answer at absolute best. It needs to be combined with practical skills, community relationships, and real assets. Food security, energy independence, and trusted neighbors matter more in the first weeks. Gold becomes more relevant after immediate survival needs are already covered and stable. The gold dealers selling you coins will never tell you any of this directly. Their business model depends on you believing gold is the complete and total solution. But history is brutally clear about what actually worked and what failed people. Preparation is a system, not a single shiny asset purchased at peak fear. So what should you actually do differently starting right now today? First, accumulate gold and silver early before any crisis becomes publicly obvious. Second, prioritize smaller silver denominations over large gold coins for practical daily use. Third, develop a specific, realistic plan for exchanging precious metals safely. Fourth, never put more than a third of your emergency savings into precious metals alone. Diversify into land, stored food, practical skills, and genuine community connections always. Fifth, understand the legal environment around gold ownership in your specific jurisdiction now. Know the confiscation risk before the risk ever actually arrives at your door. Sixth, and most importantly, stop thinking about gold as a magic solution to economic collapse. It is one tool in a much larger and more sophisticated survival toolkit you need. The people who actually survived and thrived in historical hyperinflations planned comprehensively. They did not just buy gold and assume everything else would work itself out automatically. The mistake is not buying gold. Gold is real, historically proven, and genuinely valuable protection. The mistake is buying gold without understanding its limitations, risks, and proper role. The mistake is buying it too late and holding it without a real usage strategy. The mistake is trusting one asset to solve a complex, multidimensional, rapidly evolving crisis. History does not repeat exactly, but it rhymes with haunting and consistent precision. The next hyperinflationary crisis will surprise people in new and unexpected specific ways, but the human behavioral errors around gold will almost certainly repeat themselves again. Do not be the person who learned this lesson through painful and expensive personal experience. You now know what most people will only discover when it is already far too late. Share this with someone who still thinks gold alone is the complete answer. The best time to fix your strategy was years ago without question. The second best time is right now before the crisis finds you unprepared.